preserve their purity. In 1949, the Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act. In 1950 and 1957, the Immorality Act. An amendment made interracial sexual relations a criminal offense, carrying a 7-year prison sentence. In 1950, the Population Registration Act. Each citizen was categorized racially. In 1953, the Bantu Education Act, and so on. And he says this listing is presented here as a service to the racists in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, in case they did not know what kind of legislation in order to complete their project. And he talks about the various laws that are being passed in Israel that are so similar to the ones in South Africa. And I didn't bring with me a sophisticated presentation, so we'll suffice with a chalk drawing here of historic Palestine, not with the Golan Heights, of course. And you're familiar with this map with the 1949 ceasefire line, the Gaza Strip, Egypt here, Jordan here, and so on. And so we can really talk about this three-tiered system of apartheid that exists within the area that, on which Israel was established in 1948, within the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and for Palestinians outside the country. So a three-tiered system, and I will talk about what I mean. When Zvi Bar-El talks about this open apartheid, we see it now everywhere within Israel, within the 1948 territory on which Israel was established. And you can open the Israeli papers on literally any day of the week and see the evidence of this. And so I give you some very recent examples only about the very explicit adoption of Group Areas Act type segregation in housing within Israel. A story from Yediot Ahronot, one of the main dailies in Israel, on October 22nd. Headline: You do not want Arabs in Carmiel. Carmiel is a town in Israel. Report to Purple Email. And the article says, Carmiel's deputy mayor, Aaron Milstein, does not want any Arabs in his town. Therefore, he urges the public to report real estate deals with Arabs to a special email address, and his bureau assists the anti-Arab initiative. And just a couple of quotes from the article. It quotes an ad in the local press. Residents are welcome to turn to us the moment they become aware of a flat, which is about to be a flat being an apartment. The moment they become aware of a flat which is about to be sold to someone from one of the surrounding Arab villages. Once a flat in Carmiel is sold to an Arab family, it is a solid fact for generations to come. Milstein, the deputy mayor, intimates that the selling of 30 flats has already been prevented this way. An article from Haaretz of today. A man in Safad, the headline, Safad man harassed for renting flat to Bedouin. Safad being a town that used to be, always had a historic Palestinian Jewish community, but most of its Palestinian residents were ethnically cleansed in 1948. So from Haaretz of today, Safad was plastered with posters, Tzfat in Hebrew, for those who are more familiar with the Hebrew name. Safad was plastered with posters on Tuesday denouncing a long-time resident for renting an apartment to 3 Bedouins studying at the local college. The apartment owner, Eli Svavieli, had decided to go through with the rental despite threats that his home would be torched. The posters are the latest episode in an ongoing campaign waged by certain Safad residents led by Chief Municipal Rabbi Shmuel Eliyahu, who happens to be the son of the late former Ashkenazi Chief Rabbi of Israel, Mordechai Eliyahu, to halt the influx of Arab students attracted by the college. Residents who oppose this campaign believe that in light of a recent incident in which 3 Arab students were brutally attacked, the posters could incite an attack on the 89-year-old Svavieli, who is named explicitly on the signs. Svavieli, the posters charge, is returning the Arabs to Safa. It's a crying shame. That's a quote from the poster. And they interview Svavieli, who talks about, he says, "I'm scared, but I have an obligation toward these lovely students. They're in school every day and needed a place to sleep at night." A perfectly reasonable human emotion. But the background to this, of course, is a few months ago, Rabbi Eliyahu and 17 other rabbis issued a public call to residents not to sell or rent apartments to non-Jews. That was followed by an emergency convention 3 weeks ago at which speakers lashed out against the influx of Arab students. Then, about 10 days ago, 3 Arab students were physically assaulted, one of whom was shot, though not fatally. And it goes on. From Haaretz on October 29th, Shas spiritual leader may ban on renting to Arabs. The former Sephardic chief rabbi of Israel, Ovadia Yosef, incidentally born in Iraq and himself an Arab. But one of the features of Zionism is it produces this self-hatred in Zionized Arab Jews. So former Chief Rabbi Ovadia Yosef has become one of the leading anti-Arab inciters in the country, although he himself was born in Iraq and is of Arab heritage. Again, former Chief Rabbi of Israel on Thursday backed a centuries-old interpretation of Jewish religious law barring the sale of land to non-Jews. And talks about a sermon he gave. In yesterday's lesson, he said, selling to non-Jews, even for a lot of money, is not allowed. We won't let them take control of us here. They mention, of course, that several areas, I've already mentioned Carmiel and Safad, but he mentions Pisgat Zev and other areas where we see these efforts to prevent Palestinians, indigenous people, from living where they want to. There's no legislation in Israel protecting housing equality or other forms of anti-discrimination legislation. In fact, it's the norm. And this kind of racism is supported, opinion polls show, by a large part of the population. If you look, for example, at the surveys that are done annually by the Israel Democracy Institute, published every year, the Israel Democracy Index, which you can get online, you can see very high percentages of Israeli Jews who say they favor segregated housing, segregated recreational facilities, and so on and so forth. This is very much the norm. Just a couple of days ago in Chicago, we were really honored to have Hanin Zorbi visit. She is a Palestinian woman born in Nazareth in the north. She is the first Palestinian woman elected to the Knesset. And she is one of more than 1 million, 1.2 million Palestinian citizens of Israel, often not talked about. That within Israel, within the 1948 area on which Israel was established, you have more than 1.2 million citizens of Israel who are Palestinians. And they have some of the attributes of citizenship. They can vote. That's how Hanin Zorbi was elected. They have some basic civil rights and protections, certainly more